Hey everybody, Colin Receiver here again. Today is Thursday the 20th, and today is the second of the two-part series on how you might be killing your own marketing. Stay tuned. So in yesterday's podcast, I talked about the three important questions that you've got to be asking yourself before you open your practice, definitely before you set up any kind of marketing campaign. The first question is, what do I want out of my practice? What do you the dentist, want out of your practice? What kind of practice do you want to be? We work with a lot of doctors that work 2 or 3 days a week, do a couple $1 million a year, have 3 or 4 staff. Phones are answered by an answering service a couple days a week. And if that's the kind of practice that you want to open, and you have the sales ability and the prominence to sell to the affluent, to sell the elective case dentistry, I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. Then that can be one way to be very successful. And we work with doctors that are, maybe specialists and prosthodontists and periodontists that are kind of like the boutique, but they still rely on referrals. So marketing your message has to be carefully crafted, not to step on the toes of those that are still referring patients to you. We also work with a lot of large, I call them volume practices, that are just looking for new patients, new patient value of anywhere from $1,000 or $1,500 to $3,000. When you start to get over that $3,000 or $4,000 mark, you start to get into what is generally classified as boutique. So we work with a lot of volume guys that are wanting, new patients, and we've got a lot of systems that are able to attract those types of patients without discounting, without having to accept a million kinds of insurance write-downs and go about it with that path. The second question, I talked about it on yesterday's podcast, is why should someone choose you? And, this is a question that is true for any industry. If you look at any fast food restaurant, if you look at any business out there, any large successful business has a strong factor of differentiation. And differentiation is what you have to do as a dentist if you want to survive. You have to tell patients, why are you different? Why should they choose you over the guy down the road? What's in it for them? The days of saying you're a cosmetic dentist are over. Everybody's a cosmetic dentist these days. The days of saying you're a gentle dentist and that carried weight with the patient are over. Every dentist is a gentle dentist these days. You have to find something that differentiates you. Are you a one-stop shop? Can be a powerful differentiation factor. A lot of dentists still refer out and you have to run all over town to get your dentistry done, especially for more complex cases. Whatever you are as a dentist, you have something that can differentiate you from the guy down the road. And when you can highlight that and convey that to a patient, you'll attract more of those types of patients. The third question is, why should a patient choose you over doing nothing? And this might be the hardest question to answer because in many cases, especially for volume practices, there is no consequence to doing nothing. If you have a practice that's looking for new residents that just moved into town, it's often difficult, or let me say more difficult, to attract somebody without a distinct problem, such as they can't chew, they can't eat, they're embarrassed to smile. Somebody that's just moving into the area has a much broader set of problems. They could just be looking for a cleaning. They could have a kid that needs orthodontics. They could have pain or a cavity. And directly connecting with that prospect is going to be something that takes a little bit more work on your part. I've said for years that it's much easier to attract a patient that needs implants or cosmetics or large complex dentistry, because you can very easily highlight their problem and outline the pain. And not just the pain that they're having now, but the pain and the loss if they choose to do nothing. What's the consequence of doing nothing if you don't even know, first, what their problem is, and second, if they just moved into the area and they need cleanings, what's the consequence of not getting cleanings without sounding really dramatic and kind of hokey? It's hard to relay that and convey that to a patient without sounding, kind of dramatic. If it's a patient that already can't eat, can't chew, can't smile, don't want to smile, the consequence is they're going to continue doing what they've already done. They've already experienced how bad it is to, have their denture pop out at dinner, or, look back at their daughter's wedding and not be able to smile in the pictures. So it's very much easier to hit those pain points when you're trying to attract those types of patients. And the fear of loss is a much stronger motivator, tenfold stronger motivator than the benefit of gain. And when you can highlight the losses that they're going to continue to experience, you will really focus in and attract those types of patients. So keep these 3 questions in mind when you're designing your practice and designing the marketing for your practice.